He keeps adding new things for him to overcome, new challenges, tougher fighters. I don't think he's in against that tougher guy tonight, but they're not afraid to put him in with somebody that can knock him down vis-a-vis Pinckney.
Right, and you know, the funny thing about Nacho is, though, he, in his estimation of the fighters, at least publicly, and we've sat down with the both of them, he will say he's a good prospect.
Yes.
That's what he'll call him, although we feel Marquez is more than that. In my own mind, he's a can't-miss world champion in the future. I think he's just been brilliant. He's had a couple of kind of off nights, but those are becoming certainly more far and few between, I think, Tom, the further that he goes in his career.
One of those, of course, would have been against Julian Wheeler. Many thought that Wheeler had him beat, yet he beat Wheeler, or at least got the nod on the cards. And yet it was just another chapter in what has been, so far, a very bright boxing picture for this young man. And he lost the opening bout of his career, and he's won 17 straight. And he looks like a fighter. He's well put together, he's set up nicely, and he seems to be growing into the lightweight division with ease, doesn't he?
Yes, and, you know, the guy, aside from that excellent ability that he's got, he's quick, he throws combination. He works very hard in the gym. I mean, he's a dedicated worker, Tom. And on top of everything now, we know, and that Pinckney fight showed it, that he's got the heart to go along with it.
I don't think Nacho Beristain, if we can believe his reputation, would give you locker room space if you didn't work hard for him. I think he demands a lot of his fighters, and his fighters, I think, have such respect for the man that they would do nothing less than their very best.
On the other hand, you've got Valenzuela in there with him, Tom, and he is not a world-class fighter, but we should point out that, believe it or not, as Manuel Marquez was coming in here to fight in the last week, this is the 5th opponent that has been scheduled for Juan Manuel Marquez. And he was just agreed in the last 24 hours, in fact, to fight this fight. But that's the reality of boxing. Those things happen at times. And 4 opponents fell out for this evening's bout.
Marquez got stung a little bit with a left hand there, and he quickly jumped right back at Valenzuela, who got stung himself with a sharp left hand to the body. This is round number 1. That punch a pretty good one, but Valenzuela was going away when the punch landed, so the full force of it didn't explode all over the young fighter out of Guadalajara.
We should point out that Valenzuela was in the area because he just fought a week ago at the Pond, Tom. He fought in an off-television bout against the former 2-time world champion, Daniel Jimenez, who you might remember as the guy that Barrera beat for the championship last year. A very good quality fighter, Jimenez. And Valenzuela in that one went the 10-round distance. He lost the fight, but he was competitive throughout the bout, and he won a couple of rounds along the way, but he lost the decision. He's known as a guy who can stay the distance.
Yes, indeed. That is his one main attribute. The deficit side of it is the fact that he's not a big puncher and he doesn't hit too hard. When you don't do that, why, being in the ring is kind of a tough way to make a dollar. If you can't fight but is hit, why, it's strictly uphill, and that would seem to be the problem that Valenzuela faces. Nacho Beristain, that's the man bending over talking to his...
Throw it upper right hand. Change it to the upper right hand. Give me some grease. Yeah. Don't get desperate because he's waiting for you. He's an opportunistic boxer. He's waiting for you. And after you throw, he's going to like land on you an uppercut. He's not going to lose anything. Lower your head and throw an uppercut. Yeah. Shorten your distance. Shorten distance, throw uppercuts.
Those are the words of Nacho Beristain as interpreted by Marvin Cepeda, who was listening in and eavesdropping for us. We thank Marvin for that, and he'll be along this evening on Fight Night at the Great Western Forum to keep us apprised of what transpires in the Spanish exchange.
And the advice, very sound, of course, one, to close the distance on Valenzuela if he can, and when he does get close, to throw uppercuts inside. He feels that Valenzuela will be leaning forward right there in a lunging situation where an uppercut might be very, very effective.
Just an inch difference between the two in height. 5'6" for Valenzuela. He's in the light blue and the dark black with the red piping and trim. At 5'7" is Juan Manuel Marquez. Third man in the ring, Chuck Hassett, one of the fine officials who not that long ago refereed his 100th championship bout. It was over in the Pacific Rim and in the Orient.
Hasn't been a great year for Valenzuela, obviously. You can tell through his record, but he's fought 6 times. It's already his 7th fight, Tom. He's got 1 win and 1 draw in those 6 fights to go along with 4 defeats. But again, as we point out, the main thing is fighters, when they fight him, feel that they can get a good workout in the ring, and it's not going to be somebody that's just going to fall over the first time that you hit him. He makes his opponents work, and he gives them a good, credible bout.
Yep, and he does his best. His best often is not good enough, but it's not from a lack of trying. He's a very workmanlike guy in the ring, and while he is really in over his depth, we would think, going against Marquez, while he's in there, and I don't think it's going to be all that long, he will do his level best.
As you can see, he's a pretty good boxer, Tom. He's fairly slick, a little bit awkward, not easy guy to fight, I think, and somewhat clever, but his big problem is he really boasts no punch at all, Valenzuela.
That is really, you got to feel like a salmon swimming upstream if you're in the ring and can't punch. What was it Lewis said? You can run, but you can't hide.
That's right. And Marquez, he's trying to be workmanlike, but you wonder how up he could be for this fight, Tom, knowing that it's the 5th opponent that came in, a guy with a losing record, and you know, he's had bigger challenges in front of him, namely that last fight against Pinckney. And mental preparation certainly is a big part of boxing.
He's been digging that left hand to the body in pretty good fashion. A couple of the shots might even have been a tad low. Marquez is the taller of the two, the more upright. Came in at 134 pounds, backs up Valenzuela against the ropes. They talk, of course, of Marquez, and down went Valenzuela flat on his back. Flat on his back. Count is at 5, 6, 7, 8.
You can see how quick the combinations come from him there. That was a quick left-right.
Well, the bell didn't save him because it can't, but I don't know if he'll be having trouble finding his corner. I don't know if they ought to send him out.
Right, I don't know exactly where he was walking to, but it certainly wasn't in the ring. All right, Tom, we're going to take a look at what happened there from our overhead camera now. Watch Marquez. He's going to flash a combination. Look at that. Right, left, right. It was a 3-punch combination. They all landed. There's the right. Quick left hand inside and the follow-up right. See how quick? 3 punches. Very accurate. All stinging type punches.
I don't know what it was, that left hand, that uppercut that really finished him off there.
He's just receiving you. Wait for him. Wait for him. You have to move around. You have to move around. You can't wait for him. You're giving it to him. Come on. Yeah, you gotta keep moving. You gotta keep moving. He's the one that has to receive. Just keep punching and move around.
Well, I don't know if he is giving it to him, Tom. I think it's probably more correct that Marquez is taking it from him.
Yes, yes. So they're going to send him out for round number 3. Valenzuela hard-pressed to weather the storm, and even after he was up, survived the count of 8, and the bell finally stopped the round. He had trouble finding his corner.
Tom, this has been a great year for Marquez. He's really shown everybody what he can do. We talked about the fight with Pinckney, but this is Marquez's 5th fight. He's 4-0 in the year, and he had just one of the most magnificent virtuoso performances we've seen in years in his fight with the former WBA bantamweight champion Julio Gervasio. They fought at the Pond. He was so magnificent that night.
He was indeed.
He just showed everybody that this guy really looks like a cinch.
As I look at Valenzuela, maybe I'm reading too much into it. I get the feeling that there's a lot of places he'd rather be. And he's doing his level best to stay away from Marquez, but I think he's just postponing the inevitable. He's backing up, moving away, and he looks almost as though he is shrinking and getting smaller, and Marquez getting bigger as you watch him go after each other. And Marquez, I've got to believe, feels this is not much more than just a sparring session in the gym. I've got to be a bit careful, but this guy can't hurt me. And as willing as he is, clever boxer and moving, it's a workout for him. There's a long sweeping right hand off the forehead of Valenzuela.
Valenzuela, to his credit, Tom, is not taking the easy way out, though. He's been hit a couple of hard shots in this round, and he has not gone down. And he's trying to stick to a game plan here. He's trying to box and move and make Marquez miss.
Well, I don't think his courage would ever be doubted, nor his heart, nor his determination, just his skills, perhaps.
Right, but he does have some defensive ability. You know, Marquez is missing some punches here,
well,
and the kid's making them.
He can't hurt Marquez.
No.
That's the biggest deficit he's got to overcome, and I don't know how you do that.
Exactly right.
And Marquez, of course, knows that. So Marquez can walk in, throw a few wild punches, none of which land, and then land that one big bomb and know that he's got Valenzuela at his mercy. So it's a one-sided thing. Valenzuela in the light blue. Big uppercut by Marquez in the right. Bounced Valenzuela off the ropes.
Now, you've got to be somebody, Tom, that's just really special. I mean, you've got to really be special to get by on boxing alone without a punch. I think, you know, Pernell Whitaker is probably the ultimate example of a guy who can do that. But, I mean, you've got to be that good to be able to do that.
Yeah, no question about that. 14 seconds left in round number 3. After being down in the second round, why Valenzuela has listened to his corner's admonitions. He's boxed and moved him down and stayed away from Marquez. We'll be back to see if he can do it again.
Fox Sports West.
4 scheduled for 10. These are lightweights at 134 pounds. And that's Juan Manuel Márquez in the black, trimmed in red. Rodrigo babyface Valenzuela in the blue, trimmed in white and red. He was down in the second round from a combination of 3 punches. You heard Marvin Cepeda say that Nacho Beristain had told Marquez in the corner between rounds, jab, 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 and he comes out here in round number 4 doing just that.
Well, I think he wants him to set up the attack with the jab, Tom, and that everything will work off of the jab for Marquez. If he gets that jab going, probably a right hand behind him won't be too far along the way, and then he can perhaps put Valenzuela out of it.
Valenzuela has what appears to be some swelling around the left eye, but it's not bleeding or anything of that nature. It just looks a little puffed up, and as the fight goes along, it might impair his vision. He dances along the ropes, throwing a few counter punches, both of which miss. He is kind of elusive, isn't he, Rich?
Yes, absolutely. He's made Marquez really miss a lot of punches here tonight. His accuracy for Marquez has not been as high point tonight, with the exception of that 3-punch combination that put Valenzuela down. Marquez really keeps his left arm extended before he throws that jab. It's a bit of a different style. He's got it way out in front of him.
Trying to trap the elusive Valenzuela. Has him over in Marquez's corner, and now they slide along the ropes on the far side.
He's trying to cut the ring off on him right now, Tom. If people can see an example of it. He's trying to do it. He's sliding to the side rather than letting Valenzuela circle away from it.
And a pretty good example of Valenzuela's skills in boxing, and they're considerable. He made Marquez miss with a half a dozen punches. Big right hand that didn't miss, though. Sent a shower of perspiration.
And we had a headbutt, Tom, and Marquez is busted open.
Yep, in the right eye. Headbutt, and right in the right eyelid. Nacho Beristain gets up as if to say, "Are you kidding me?" And the blood is coming down the right side of his face.
And of course, at this time, we should quickly make reference to the rule to which you alluded to in our open, Tom, and that's the fact that in California, they go to the scorecards if a fight is stopped due to an accidental headbutt once the 4th round has started. And we are, in fact, into the 4th round right now. If this fight ends early, they're going to go to the scorecards.
And, of course, an important part of that whole scenario is the fact that the referee must duly notify the judges at ringside that it was an accidental headbutt, which he did. Chuck Hassett did that, so it lays the groundwork for determining if this fight indeed is stopped by that, who the winner will be.
And if the referee, in fact, just as a side note, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't see the headbutt, but a fighter goes ahead and claims it, the referee can, in fact, go to each judge and ask if they saw a headbutt, and if one of them says that they did, then he will rule it thus, and then again, it's getting to the technical decision situation.
Meantime, Marquez continues to chase, hammer at, try to capture and corner the elusive Valenzuela as we've gone through 4 rounds, and now we go to the corner, and you can see the blood coming down the right side of the face. Well, not really, because there you can see it. Right in the eyelid.
Now this one could put, you take a look at that, Tom. It's in a very dangerous spot. It could put Marquez on the shelf for a while after this fight. Just take a look. It's going to come after. Look at that right hand, a beauty. But then Valenzuela bounced off the ropes with the headbutt. He had just landed one of his very best punches of the fight. And he bounces off the ropes and boom, smacks him right in the head. And that definitely opened up that cut. No question about that.
At the risk of being a bit facetious, I'm wondering if Valenzuela isn't saying, I hope they stop this now. Because I don't know if I can run that much longer and stay away from this guy. I don't think there's any question, but what that man right there, Marquez, is ahead of everybody's card.
It's just bad luck. You already had him. Just throw jabs to the body, to the head. Just throw jabs, he's getting tired.
Juan Manuel actually looks a little discouraged in his corner, even though he's controlling the fight. I think he's upset about the cut.
Well, it'll certainly keep him out of any heavy training over the holidays, and we'll have to wait till it heals before he can get back in the ring in 1997. And they talk about him being in line for a shot at the junior lightweight champ Reggie or Rogelio Tur, the kid from the Netherlands.
Yeah, he has an outstanding record tour, but I think Marquez would be a very good match for him, Tom. He's far more experienced than Juan Manuel.
We're in round number 5. Valenzuela went down in round number 2 from a left-right-left combination. It looked for all the world as though he had had enough and wasn't going to be able to continue, but here he is in round number 5. And he's kept Marquez at bay, boxing well. Tough to hit, tough to catch.
What's really amazing is the guys in this area fighting in Los Angeles of Mexican descent, Tom, who are right in about the same weight category, from 122 to 130. And there's so much talent with Barrera and Paez and Chico Castillo and
right there,
and of course with Juan Manuel Marquez. I mean, there is really, it's a very deep here in this area in that particular weight category, from about 122 up to 130.
Marquez in the black, trimmed in red, trying to trap the elusive Valenzuela. About 5 left hands by Marquez, none of whom landed, none of which. There's a big wild right hand that Valenzuela slipped away from. Left hand might have been a little low. Valenzuela scored for a right hand and gets hit with the right.
Valenzuela, it's unfortunate for him, Tom, that he just doesn't have a punch. He's never going to be more than a club fighter because of this, and because you just can't step up the ladder unless you have some punching, power. Unless, as I mentioned before, you're unbelievably special. And Valenzuela's not. But could you imagine if he did have some punch to him? I mean, he's a pretty slick little kid in there, and but he's got nothing to keep a guy off of him. Nothing to keep the pressure from coming in on him.
No. In fact, fighters like Marquez just, once they find that out, of course, and the word gets around in a big hurry, if not right after that first punch is thrown, and you feel it, just walk right through you. Then all of your boxing skills have to come into play, keep you from being down and out. Valenzuela's crafty, clever. Marquez trying to nail him in that corner and just that close. We'll be back. The conversation with Juan in Valenzuela's corner was almost laughable because while his people are, of course, well meant, why some of the information they were handing him, like Marquez is getting tired, you are getting to him, Rodrigo, and protect your chin. Now there he throws a right hand, and Marquez felt it, but it was of little impact. I mean, it didn't affect how Marquez feels about this fight. It was a good right hand.
I thought their best lie in the corner to Rodrigo was luring him down.
Yes, yeah.
That was right up there with the checks in the mail.
Yeah. Or have I got a bridge for you?
But they did tell him, and I thought this was correct, that you've got to keep moving, Rodrigo, and you can't let him corner you. They did tell him that, and you know that's probably right, because Marquez will do tremendous damage. Now, Marquez's eye never started bleeding in that last round again because Valenzuela, frankly, never hit him again.
Yes. Headbutt in the fourth round was of some concern to both fighters, and of course to Marquez, who was the recipient. But his corner's done a nice job of closing that up. One has to admire the boxing skills and the heart and desire of Valenzuela. Look at him. Doesn't have a big punch, but he walks right in, doing his level best to nail Marquez, who does have a big punch. 12 knockouts in 17 rings.
He's doing all the things we talked about that he does. He stays with fighters. He goes the distance. He lasts, as he did last week against the two-time former world champion, Daniel Jimenez. He went the full 10 rounds with him at the pond and never really was in danger of being KO'd, although he lost the fight.
Antonio Curtis, the matchmaker here for the Great Western Forum and Forum Boxing. Oh, he was just searching hither and yon everywhere. Filled his card up tonight. As Rich said, this is been 4 fighters have dropped out.
He came over here, shook his head, and said, "That was the week that was."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You know, this is a pretty good workout for Marquez. He stung Valenzuela with it, but he's had to chase him, tried to cut the ring off, throws an overhand right. Valenzuela continues to move in the box.
And even against a guy like this, he can learn a little something. Because he's facing an awkward guy in there, a guy who knows how to get away from punches. And, you know, you stay active, you stay sharp.
Valenzuela continues to be a will-o'-the-wisp. We're very close to the bell. Good right hand by Valenzuela. We'll follow it back to his corner. We've gone through 6 rounds of this bout, scheduled for 10 in the lightweight division, and we'll listen in and find out how they're talking to Rodrigo now.
All right. They're taking him to school. They're taking him to school, Rodrigo. Okay, the pressure's on him. Pressure on him. Keep throwing. Keep throwing punches. Just keep your hand right up close to your body by your chin.
If he doesn't get some offense going, I'm going to have to stop it. He's not still throwing offense.
He's coming off. Valenzuela did a little offense. He's got to get some offense. Punches. Still, Marquez was coming in at him all the time. Their heads got dangerously close there, and Juan Manuel landed a couple of strong rights in that particular flurry. But Valdez had a few moments along the way. He landed a good, clean right hand early in the round and a good, clean right hand just before the bell ended.
And he made Marquez miss repeatedly. He landed one punch, looked as though he had a flurry coming right at Valenzuela, only to find that he wasn't there anymore. He is an extremely tough little guy to find and hurt, although in round number 2, Marquez did just that, put him down for the count of 8, and really had him rubber leg. Though he survived, and of course, it's obvious, here he is now in round number 7 of a scheduled 10-rounder. Comforting for Valdez to go back to his corner and know there's 2 or 3 guys over there who think he's winning this fight. Valenzuela, I should say. Valenzuela. Good left hand by him now. And look at him force Marquez to miss repeatedly.
And he's coming out of there firing.
Yes, he is.
That last round, Tom, was his most offensive-minded round, and he's picked it up again here this round.
And blood coming from his nose. His corner people have told him, keep busy, keep throwing those punches, overwhelm him. He's fucking a great fight. I would think in vain, but boy, he is trying. And now it is Marquez who's backing up. Can you believe that?
Every now and then, Juan Manuel Márquez has a night when things don't click on all cylinders for him. Remember earlier in the year he fought Freddie Cruz. Cruz that night just didn't want to fight, so it was very hard for Márquez to look good in that fight because Cruz didn't want to do anything but last 10 rounds.
Right there, hold it.
Valenzuela stumbles and getting away from Marquez. Like some blood coming from the nose of Valenzuela. Very close to another headbutt there, Rick.
Yeah, a couple of times. Valdez at times will just lunge forward with that head, Tom, and that's what happens.
Well, he tried a little left-hand lead there and got hit with the right hand. On the point of the chin. But
yeah, well, he left himself off balance, totally out of position.
I'll tell you, he's given
Right there, hold
Juan Manuel Marquez a very busy evening of it, trying to find him. Clever little boxer.
Yeah, it's a good workout for Marquez, but I think future opponents will see, Tom, that the way to engage Marquez is basically not to engage him in a slugfest, but to move and box.
Coming in close of round number 7. Way to go. We'll be back to see about that. Round number 8, some interesting comments as interpreted for us by Marvin Cepeda. The words of Nacho Beristain. They're a little frustrated over in that corner, I think.
Yeah, and I think Beristain was telling him if he gets the opportunity to try to finish him off. So you're letting him get a little aggressive, and I think that is true. He did let Valenzuela on a couple of occasions, the last 2 rounds, get over-aggressive with him. And due to that cut, they're a little concerned over in that corner. They don't want to see things get any worse in that regard, thinking about the future. So he said if the opportunity presents itself, go ahead, finish him off.
The right hand by Marquez was high on the left side of the head, up around the temple, the ear of Valenzuela, and I think it stunned him a little bit. At least I think it really got his attention. Marquez bouncing up and down, trying to trap him in the corner, and that is not easy to do. Valdez slips and slides. Very elusive. It's a shame that he's not a heavier hitter than he is, because he could be a very interesting fighter and have a nice career. He could win.
He's clever enough, and he's just awkward enough, too, to make you look bad. You know, he's what you call a spoiler, and you don't really want to fight spoilers too much. Because even if you beat him, you don't look good.
No.
Pick it up, pick it up.
And of course, when you've got a record of 17-1 and you're in against a guy whose record is 9-12, you are fully expected to beat him, and long before this, the 8th round. Considering that you had him down from a nice combination of punches back in the 2nd round, and here you are now. Pretty good uppercut, right hand, drives Valenzuela back. Marquez is trying to level him. Really, he's blood from the nose again, flowing now from the nose of Valenzuela.
Well, I think Marquez is picking up the pace here, Tom. He's closing the distance now again, and he's putting more pressure. He's exerting more pressure on Valenzuela, and I think his attack really that he's launching here is designed to do what Beristain told him, and is designed to try to finish off his opponent.
By a whisker, he's been so close to a punch that would have put Valenzuela down, one presumes, and out. But Valenzuela has managed to slip some of those big, heavy-handed shots that Marquez has thrown at him. Marquez might get one in there, and then in trying to follow up with combinations, why, Valenzuela's just gone.
In this round, though, Valenzuela has appeared to me, Tom, as a guy simply bent on lasting the distance.
And that's the way round 8 will go into the books. And down goes Valenzuela.
Bell does not save the fighter. He had to get up and beat the count. Bouncing off the ropes, and you see an uppercut miss there, and it looked to me as though, I said he looked like a guy who was looking to last the distance, and basically I think at the end he was looking for a way out, Tom, because he really didn't get hit solid, and basically over in the corner when the doctor came over, he said he really didn't want to go on.
Yes, and I think it's a wise decision on his part, and one that his corner did not argue with him about. He was not going to win this fight, and all he would have gotten would have been more punishment. He keeps holding his jaw, Rich, as though it were broken, or certainly giving him a lot of discomfort. And he goes over and congratulates Marquez. As Marquez wins it, I guess it'll go into the books as a TKO in round number 9. We'll be back to get the official call in a moment. Brought to you by Brewery Fresh Budweiser, who reminds you that fresh beer tastes better. Juan Manuel Márquez makes his record 18-1 with 13 knockouts. Jimmy Lennon Jr. will give us the official time and the round for the win. Jimmy, if you will.
Ladies and gentlemen, this bout has been stopped at the end of round number 8. Ringside physician Dr. Robert Carnes advises the bout to be stopped. Our referee in charge, Chuck Hassett, stops the contest. The winner by way of knockout, Juan Manuel Márquez.
So Marquez put his man down in the second round, and quite frankly, we here at ringside didn't think that Valenzuela would last.